Hello everyone. Today's video we're going to be converting this Nikon P1000 to a full spectrum camera. And before we get started, I just wanted to mention that this will void your warranty on your camera. It could break your camera because there's going to be some desoldering that we're going to have to do to remove the motherboard. And it's difficult to reverse. So once you've converted it to full spectrum, the only way that you're going to get normal photography back is to put the infrared and UV filter back into the camera, which would require taking it back apart, unsoldering it, and replacing that film that we're going to be removing. Or another way would be to get a external filter that we can screw onto the front of the lens to block out those different light sources. So we're gonna go ahead and start to take a couple of the screws apart. You're gonna need a small Phillips screwdriver to do this, and I'm just gonna show you the different places where these screws are located. And black is a difficult color to film, so I'm gonna do my best to show you what you got to take apart here. But we're gonna have one screw here, another one down here. We're gonna be removing this screw as well. It's also going to be this screw up here, these two screws for this display. It's going to be these this screw over here. Not sure if we need to take this one off, but this one for sure. I don't see any screws there. And then we're going to need to remove these screws down here as well. Let's check inside the battery tray. There's no screws inside the battery tray. We are going to need to unload our memory card. So let's take the memory card out. Make sure your battery's out as well. And I believe okay, so inside of here, it's kind of hard to tell here. There's a little tab here. Let's see if you guys can see that. Yeah, you can barely see it. Right in here is a little plastic tab. We're going to pry up on the bottom of that tab, pull this top cover off, and I believe there's some screws under there as well. Now there is another video on YouTube on how to do this, but the filming was not very clear. It was difficult to see. I'm taking a lot of my cues off of that video, and in that person's video they actually didn't remove the membrane because they had already done it, but they went through the process. So hopefully this one will be a little easier to see for anybody that wants to do this. Alright guys, so all I did to get this off was just use this pick tool, and I got up underneath it and just gave it a quick couple little snaps, and it just popped right up. I'm not sure how this comes off, if it slides out or if it, oh, there it goes. So it just pops out all the way. And in here there's going to be another screw down there. So we're going to have to loosen that one. So let me pull these screws out, and we'll see what else we got here. So I'm putting good pressure on this screw as I'm unscrewing it, so I don't want to strip it. And it is tight. There it is. And you want to keep track of these screws of where you take them out. That way you don't mix them up if they're different lengths or different screw types. Take out this side ones here. Again, this is another tight one, so make sure you put pressure on it so you don't strip it. Okay, so these two outside ones, they're a little bit, show you this. So these two outside screws are here. These two outside screws, they're a little bit longer. So just keep track of what screws go where. I'm just gonna set them up like this on the table. So I got my two outside ones over here. Then I want to set this one, the one that goes on top for the flash, I'm gonna put it over here. And this one, since it's the next one, will be here. And then I'm gonna try to do my best to keep track of where everything goes. I also have it on video, so that'll help. Let me see. Looks like there's a couple little covers here that I need to take off. Maybe not. Anyway, I'm going to leave those for last. We might not have to take those off. I'm going to go ahead and take these out. And again, these are a little bit shorter. So it's a good idea to keep track of them. Alright, so there's another one to note. This one is a really short screw. Put it right here. Very short screw. And this one's a little longer. And I would expect this one to be probably just as long as this one. Nope, it's a short one also. Two really short ones here and then a longer one on this side. And I don't think there was any in here. Nope. Okay, all right, looks like that's coming up a little bit. Let's see what we got to do to pull this cover off of here. All right, another screw that we got to take off is this here. Okay, there's a couple of clips here too. So you can see those two clips. So I'm going to push down here and push down here. So let me see if I can do that on camera. There you go. Okay. So you saw me release those, and then this part slides back. Okay, all right, so I got this part off. All right, next thing you want to do is we're going to need to remove this cover. And I figured out how to do that. What you need to do is use your fingernail. If you look real close, there's two seams here. So there's a seam here on the bottom, and there's a seam above it. So this seam above it, we need to get our fingernail up underneath this, and then lift this side up. And then we're going to do the same thing with this side. We're going to lift this side up, not the bottom not this bottom part, but this top piece. And so this is how I was able to do it. I just got my fingernail under there. You see that? See how it's making that little crack, and then just flip up on it. There you go. So that part now is loose, and then we can probably turn this thing back and get this cover off all the way. So now that we got it lifted up a little bit, we can probably get in there with a little pick tool. Just push it up. See that? All right. So that'll take that cover off. Okay. So once we have this cover off, screw down here at the bottom. So you have these two screws here and here. That should remove the monitor. And then we got this little screw down here. Now, is there another screw back there? Well, we don't know yet until we take this off. So let's pull that part off, and we'll see what else we got back there. Now, this thing does have a connection here, so we're going to have to be careful with that. And I'm going to tilt this down just so that screw doesn't fall in there. There's a second one, all right? So we got to be careful with this. We don't want to break this. So I'm just going to put this down here. I'm going to try to support this with my hand. And take this last screw out. And I'm not sure if there's going to be screws under here. We'll have to see. All right, again, we got to be organized with these little screws. So these two are going to be right about here. Say those over there. And the long one goes on the very bottom. So it's positioned right here. So I'm going to try to take these two screws out and see if there's something under here. Not sure if that has to come out or not, but let's try to take that out and see what happens. Okay, so that was the last piece that needed to come out. So it looks like this thing is coming out now. See, it's all coming off now. All right, so that's what we want right there. Okay, so if you look in here carefully, to bring the camera down so you guys can see what's going on here. So there are a couple of little things that we need to remove here. So we have these little ribbons, and let me see how these little ribbons come off. Okay, so this one, so this little thing right here, this little metal thing, probably flips maybe. Let's see. Yeah, so it flips back. So you saw that? I just flipped this with my fingernail. You see it? So flip it down, and then this allows this little ribbon cable to come out. Now this one might be a little bit different. Let's look at this one. Yep, same thing with this one. So this little thing flipped down. See that? Getting close here so you can see. This little thing here flips down, and then you can pull this little ribbon out of here. So there's that. Same thing over here on this side with this ribbon. So now that we got these two ribbons off, we could take this piece and get it out of the way. So I'm just going to set it over here to the side. So now we're just going to be working with this part here. We're going to need to take this plate off as well. So it looks like there's one screw over here, another one here, another one up here. I'll take this one off as well, and then two down here. That'll give us access to what's underneath this board. Alright guys, I want to do a little update here. These screws did not need to come out, okay? Because they're fastened to this plate and they don't interfere at all with the removal of this. The one screw that did need to come out is this bottom left one. That was the only one that needed to come out. These that hold this little screen on, these two that hold the little screen on, they could have stayed on. You don't need to remove those. I'm gonna take them off just one at a time. These screws are tight, so you gotta really push down on this when you're unscrewing them. Okay, now these two screws here are black in color. So just take a mental note of that. And they're not very tight. Now we got this one over here. This one looks like it's covering a little piece of copper. So just gently take that one off, and that one's pretty tight too. Okay, so it comes off with this little copper piece. So be careful not to lose it. Okay, so this, if you just wiggle it, it'll come loose. And you want to be careful not to touch a bunch of these components with your hands, because you got static electricity that could build up on it. You could damage this. So what I'm going to do to stay organized here is I'm just going to place these screws back where they go on this little metal plate here. I'm just going to put these off over here to the side. Okay, next thing we want to do, I'll turn the light on here so you guys can see. Next thing we want to do is release these ribbon cables here, because we're going to have to take this little motherboard out of here. And to do that is probably going to be the same type of process. I'm going to try to flip this up. Maybe that one doesn't work that way. Let's try pulling it down. Okay, so to release this one, if you look carefully here, this little lid has to flip down. So I just got my fingernail up on top of it and just pull it down, and then that's gonna release this ribbon cable here. Okay, so that's one out, and then this one is gonna be similar to the one on the other side. So you gotta grab your fingernail up underneath this part here and flip up this little tab. You see how this little tab is up now? See that little tab? And once that little tab is flipped up, you can pull this other ribbon out. So there's that one. Now the one that we're going to have to do is this one here. And let me look at this one carefully here. Okay, so this one, I think we flip this black part. I think we flip this black part towards us. Yep, that's how it goes. Flip it up. See it right there. that moves. Then we can get this guy out. Okay. We have a couple more over here. This one I think is the same thing. Got to flip this up. Yep. So got a tiny little thing we got to flip up here. This one might be a little tricky. We may need a set of tweezers to get this one. I'm just going to get under here with some tweezers and just gently pull it out. This one, same thing. So we're going to grab, show you with the pick so you can see. So you're going to grab here, flip this up, just like that. You see it? And just pull this one out. Okay. Anything else? Looks like there's something here. Okay, so these I believe you just pry them out. So you gotta just carefully pry them out. There you go. So this has a small little row of connectors that pushes on here. So that one's out. And we got another one up here. This is another one. So we're just gonna flip up, grab it and pull it off. And I think that's all of them. Okay, so now this has a cover here. Let's see what's underneath this cover here. Okay, so this has a bunch of wires that are soldered here. And I don't know that we need to take any of these wires off, but what I do know that we need to remove is these little traces here. So we have to unsolder these little traces. So let me go ahead and set up a solder gun, and we'll see if we can unsolder these joints over here. All right, for this part, what we're going to need is possibly some solder wick. So I don't have any soldering wick, but what I do have is some speaker wire. So what I did here, guys, is I just took some speaker wire and braided it up. So this is what I'm going to use as my solder wick, and I may not need it at all. We'll see. What I'm doing now is warming up the solder gun, and you're going to need a fine tip on your solder gun. So here I have relatively fine tip, and if we need something finer, I can switch it out for one that's even finer than this one, but I think this one will work out well. And what I plan to do is see if I can just work each one off one at a time, and once I get the solder removed and the board free, then we should be able to just pull this whole motherboard off and get to the lens itself, which is where the filter that we need to remove is at. Another thing that we might need to use is some liquid flux. So this will be for the solder wick if we need to use the solder wick. All right, so what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to apply a little flux paste to the soldering iron. All right, guys, I'm going to go ahead and apply the flux paste to the braided wire and see if I can pull that solder off those connectors. Okay, it looks like that's going to work. And I'm going to be cutting the wick away as I go. Oh shit. Damn. Capacitor, bro. Alright, let's take the rest of the screws out and see if this thing will come loose. I think I got them all just about loose. Looks like I might have to do a little bit more work over here on a couple of these connectors. Oh, there it is. Okay, guys, you saw it? Okay, so let me show you. So this little board has to come free, which right now it's free. So this other main board should pry up. So I'm going to start gently prying on this and see if I can get it to come up. I may have to take off this little silver thing here. Okay, so it looks like it has to, since these ports are on this side, it looks like it has to pry up from this side and maybe slide towards the right. So I'm going to try to not grab too much. There it is right there. Just wiggle it side to side until it comes free. There it goes. All right, now you guys see these connectors that are under here? Over here on this side. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to gently get these out from under here to give myself some more space. I'm also going to pull this tape off of here. Okay, so that gives me more space. I'm just going to stand that little board up right there. Okay, next thing that has to come off is this metal plate. It looks like it's already loose. So I'm just going to gently try to pry it out of here. Okay, so if you can see, it has to come out the side here. You guys see that? So it has to come out of here. So just going to gently pull that out of there. That's it. So I'm just going to let the motherboard hang over there on this side. And now the screws that we're going to have to take out to get to that sensor are underneath this plate here. These are three very short screws, very short, and they're silver. So make sure you don't mix them up. Looks like all three are the same size. So here's the sensor. We're not doing anything to the sensor, but if you look in here, see this little square thing? This is the thing we got to remove. So I'm just going to, let's see how I'm going to get this thing out of here. Guys, I'm just going to grab it with a piece of tape and pull it out of there. That's it. So this is the piece you want to remove. All right, what we're doing next is reassembling the sensor. So we're going to start with these little pieces here. And then the sensor itself. So we remove the little glass, now we're putting the sensor back. So to line it up, you need to make sure that those pins line up with these outside holes right here. So those plastic pins that you saw underneath that had those two little plastic pieces that went, they line up with these two right here. So once you get those two lined up, then you can go ahead and put your little screws back in. And I had a super nasty capacitor discharge. Hopefully we didn't damage the camera. I forgot about discharging the flash. Yeah, that was nasty. So I'm just going to start each one, and then I'll go back and tighten them. So this little thing, there's like a little sponge underneath the sensor. So what I'm doing here is I'm just pushing it down to compress that sponge so that I can snug these down. And these don't have to be crazy tight. You'll feel as soon as they they tighten up, you don't need to tighten them anymore. That's it. Right? Now we just gotta reassemble it the same way we took it apart. So we're gonna start with that metal piece that we took off. Gotta make sure we get up under all this stuff. Okay, so this one, gotta make sure we pull this up over here. And then this goes in between the plastic. Bring it up close so you can see. It goes in between the plastic. See this cap right here? So it goes in between these two parts. Just like that, okay? See that? So it goes right in between those two parts. All right, next thing we got to do is just put this board back up, back on. And now we're going to do that. We're going to start by fishing these little wires underneath this piece of plastic here, where they were before. And I'm just grabbing them one at a time. Now what I'm going to do now is I'm going to fish these ribbon cables above this board here. So I got to grab this other one over here. Sorry about that bad camera angle. I think we got them all. Yeah, looks good. All right, now we're gonna start by lining up all of these little connection points, these little ports, and slowly working this board back into its position. Okay, and all I did was just move it around a little bit till it falls in its place where it needs to go. Looks good there. Check this. Yeah, okay. Okay, those are all of our connections. Okay. Next thing we're going to need to do is reinstall this little thing here. Okay, so we got the 3 screws that we're going to put down next. So these are the 3 that we first took off. Got one right over here. Have another one here. So this one goes right over here. And the last one goes over here in this corner. Next thing we're going to need to do is to resolder these bridges. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Okay, so for this part, all I'm going to do is just get a little dot of solder on the end of the gun, and then just start bridging these connections back. It's tricky getting these things back together, so just be patient. If you bridge two of them together like I just did, just flick it off. Alright guys, I think I got it. Let me inspect them real closely and make sure that none of them are bridged. Now we just need to slowly put this thing back together. So we're going to start by just sticking this thing back down across these connectors here. Now watch that charge capacitor, man. That thing scared the heck out of me. We're going to reinstall all these little ribbons. So we'll start with this one over here. So all we had to do here is just push it down to these little, show you here. You're going to push the ribbon in until these little edge tabs touch the plastic part, and then flip down the little lock. So the same thing with this other one over here. Okay, once you can't put it in anymore, just lock it down. Right, now we're going to do, let's do this one. Push it down, lock it down. And just double check and make sure it went in there. Okay, now this one has to flip up. Right. Let's grab this one next. So once that little silver part, you can't see it anymore, or the copper part, lock it down. Okay. Try this one again. I don't think it went in far enough. Oh, maybe it did. Okay. Okay, and then this last little flip one. So this one you just have to feel for it. You may have to look at it this way here. Line it up properly. Yep, that's it there. Okay, next we're going to put the metal plate back on. And then just carefully wiggle it around till it seats in position. That's it right there. Okay, so the three little silver screws on the side, so it's 1, 2, 3. Start with those. I'm just going to start the screws, at least those 3, before I tighten them all down. Okay, now these two were those black screws. Now this part, this one here had this little metal thing here. And how I think it goes is, if I remember correctly, it slips in between this piece of plastic here and this little metal part, and then comes over across to this piece. I'll show you what that looks like here. So I believe it goes like this. Just like that. Now I can go ahead and tighten all these back down. So now these were, they don't have to be crazy tight, but just tighten them until they bottom. Once they bottom, you don't really need to tighten them too much more than that. And hopefully once we turn this thing on, it'll work. I'm worried about that capacitor discharging like that. But hopefully we didn't screw the camera up. Okay. Next thing we're going to do is connect up our screen. So on this part, we have this one little connection here. So go ahead and make that. Turn the camera this way. All right, before I button it all down, I'm going to try it real quick and make sure that it's going to work. All right, moment of truth. All right, guys, let's put the battery in and check it. So we got our card in, put our battery in. And let's take our cover off. Let's see if this thing turns on. Yep. All right, guys. So there you have it. Let's put the rest of the screws in, and then we can button it up. Okay, so it's got two pins here on the top that need to go in first. So just guide those pins in, and then just carefully work the camera back together. So just work this till it goes all the way down. Okay, so there shouldn't be any gap. Oops, I'm sorry. There shouldn't be any gap here. So just work it till it goes all the way down. Okay, so that's pretty much in. Okay, so now the next thing we're gonna do is put the 3 screws for the lens back in. So we got these 2 top ones, and these are little silver ones. Okay, so next one is going to be the one that's on top of it, which is right here. So this is the one that goes inside this hole here. All right, now we can go ahead and put this cover back on. cover just slides over. And then it has these two little pins that have to go in here. So just slide it over, push the pins in, and then we have one screw on the bottom. So that's a black screw. And it's a short black screw. And if you have a screw that seems like it bottoms out but it's still sticking out, that's a screw that you have in the wrong place. So I'm going to start now with the side screws. So we'll start with these side ones. And these are longer screws. So these long black ones. Next screw is going to be another black one, but this one's not as long as the ones on the side. That one goes over here. Next one goes over on this side. It's another black one. So these two are the same size screws. Next is going to be the screw on the side right here. So that's another black one. The remaining screws are going to go along the bottom. So if I remember correctly, these two were short. There was one long screw. This one was a long screw, and these two were short screws. So a long black one. It looks like it has some thread lock on it. Okay, now we need to install the cover, but before we put the cover, we got to put the screw in this corner over here. So this one is going to be a silver screw because it gets covered with that black cover. So there's a little silver screw. It goes right here. Now we're going to install our little cover, and then the last two screws are the black ones. So let's fold this all the way down. So now to put this one on, it slides in, and then it just goes down just like that. And I'm gonna lift this up so that I can snap this thing down. Oh, you gotta watch out with this little cable here. So if you see the little cable sticking out, just let's fix that cable. Push that cable in there. There you go. Okay. All right, guys, we got no screws left over. Camera's working. And there you have it. So this is a Nikon P1000. Oh, we got one more thing we got to put on this little cover over here. Oh, here it is. Okay, so our last little part, just snap our little cover back on. So to do that, we're going to raise the flash. Take the little cover. It has the little latch. So the latch goes facing forward like this. Just pushes down, and then the latch part, you can see it. Let me turn the torch on. Okay, you can see the latch right there. That's it. Okay, so this is a Nikon P1000. We just converted it to full spectrum. Guys, if you like the video, give it a thumbs up. If you're new to the channel, consider subscribing. Turn on your notification bell. And leave me some comments. Till the next video. God bless, guys. Alright guys, this is what the world looks like with full spectrum. It's pretty amazing, actually. So this is these are things that we can't see with our naked eye, but the camera can see it.